So here he is. I've done some research on this man. He's apparently the #1 bass fisherman in the whole world. Jacob Wheeler, I hope you're getting excited and ready for your trip to fish the Barra Tour in Australia. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Obviously, I'm excited to get down there and obviously go and enjoy Australia, but also try to go and target a new species. I mean, that's obviously what it's all about. And I mean, I'm like a kid in a candy store. Obviously, going to different destinations and going to travel and catch bass is one thing, but then to hear a little bit about the Barra and understanding a little bit about what and how you guys catch them, I'm like, it's like my first time going bass fishing, but I'm anticipating it to be a heck of a lot of fun.
Sitting next to me, Tim Morgan, my brother. My name's Steve Morgan. We're both going to be fishing the tour. Tim is actually going to be your partner, and he is coincidentally the boss of Rapala in Australia. So apparently we're going to hear a lot of crushed it, except crushing it, not crushing it. So that's
exactly. It'll be a little bit larger. I mean, that's I think there is. You know, Tim and I definitely we got our work cut out for us. But I'm leaning heavily on my partner here to pull us through for sure. Now he's got to show me the ropes.
A few basics about Barramundi, and for your guys that might be watching this that don't know about the Barramundi, they're a fish which lives mainly in salt water. They live in fresh and salt water. They go to the salt water to breed, so they'll breed in an area like a snook would live in the US. But when they're small, they swim upstream and they'll go up in the freshwater parts of the rivers. Sometimes they get stuck in a billabong or a little lake or something. And then when they have a big flood, all those small fish that have grown up then come back into the salt water. And what that means is in our lakes that we have, they actually don't breed. So every single barra which is in a lake in Australia has been grown in a hatchery, and then it's been put in the lake. And then when they get in the lake, they grow big and fat. So we don't have any spawn events in the lakes or anything like that. The fish, you don't often sight fish them. They're often they're often deeper in the water column. So it's very heavy on electronics to find them. And in the old days, that was 2D and side image. But nowadays with live sonar, man, you can imagine what a fish that's this long looks like. It looks like a railway sleeper drifting past in front of your boat. And I think it'll be a unique blend of your skills and an iconic Australian fish will make for a pretty good time over here.
Yeah, that's insane to even think of. Now, what's an average? So just sort of give me an understanding. So what's an average like barra? Like if it's oh, that's a decent fish, you know, like in your mind, like what's an average barra?
So if everyone would aim for a meter barra, Tim, you'd say like a 1/4 meter long barra, which is about, what's that? How many inches is it a meter?
Probably
a yard,
40 inches.
A yard long barra, and that probably weighs about 25 pounds. And that's
a decent one.
Well, that's the one that everyone sort of wants to catch. You want to catch a meter long barra over here. The average the average one in a tournament.
It's a trophy.
A trophy. An average one in a tournament might be 15 pound, and the biggest one we had come in our recent tournaments was maybe 50
pound. Yep.
Caught on plug tackle. So you'll be using similar rods and reels, but instead of 12 pound or 6 pound or 10 pound fluorocarbon, you'll have 40 pound braid and 60, 80, 100 pound shock leaders on the end. With hooks, if you're using 2X and 3X strong hooks, they're not good enough because they'll probably get bent open. 4X strong
4
hooks.
and 6X.
And 6X,
yeah.
Yep. So proper
What does that mean?
They have a very strong mouth. So if they hit a jerkbait and you've got improper hooks on it, on the bite on the jerkbait, they can just open them all up. So sometimes you can you put a largemouth bait on and it'll go donk and it'll go, oh, I've got a bite. It'll come in, the trebles will all be straightened up because their bite is so strong. The way the tournaments run, so you're coming up, we're fishing in central to northern Queensland. It's going to be pretty warm up there. She'll be, what's that, sort of 80, 90 degrees and humid a lot of the time. But most of the tournaments are in the late afternoon at night, and that avoids the heat, but it also coincides with when the barramundi get up and they start moving around and they start feeding. So it's a really social sort of time. You can get up first thing in the afternoon to organise for a tournament, and we fish through till about midnight each night. But what this means is that guys that want to follow you, they can wake up in the morning, they can look at our live scoreboards because we have live scoreboards there, and they can see how you and Tim are going against guys like Carl and Gussie and some of the local star teams. So we got all the tech. It's just happening in a very remote part of Australia.
That'll be awesome. So we'll have even like Wi-Fi. We'll be able to have all that tech and be able to like sort of share a lot of that, the key components and the key catches. That'll be awesome.
Yeah. So the only one, the very first event, we have very patchy service, but from then on, it's sort of like it is sort of like live scoreboards the whole time. So we have one in a really small lake where it's only maybe 2 miles round, a little basin, and every boat can see every other boat. But the catch rate is phenomenal. It's like you'll see other boats, flashes going and barra jumping, and and it ranges from that to really big, open, shallow timber-filled lakes that are really shallow and productive, and you'll get a real variety of that sort of experience of the barra fishing up north. And Tim, you're the Rapala man over here. Just explain to Jacob maybe what sort of a Rapala baits you might be using for it.
Well, we've just got the Crush City 5.5-inch heavy hitter, so similar to your mare, but super TPE material, huge body roll. That's probably my go-to bait at the moment for a swim bait. We've got a few Shadow Wrap glides, the X-Wrap pedos, which is the hybrid bait, which is hard and soft with a bit of a chin weight on the front of that. You can roll that at 15 foot if they're sitting deeper off the points. A couple of lakes, if it sets up right, we could catch some on surface as well, which is an awesome way to get them. And then obviously with the live sonar, we've got some great jerk baits. So we've got, I don't know if you would have seen it, Shad Wrap Elite 95 mil, so a bigger one with stronger hooks on it, wired through, so built tough for Australian fish. So there's plenty of Rapala lures that are going to get a run this trip.
Now, what's the overall like size of the bait that what are those fish keying in on up there? Like, is there like a certain bait type that they're keying, like a fish, like are they eating like 3-inch, 4-inch?
Yep, 3 to 4 inch.
95 mils, yeah. So, yeah.
Same sort of size jerk baits as you use, but you have to beef them up. And then it's unique. They need to be designed for Australia, because if we're putting really heavy hooks on them, they won't suspend. So
Absolutely.
we have design baits here that with the correct hooks that will suspend, because they react very positively to having a lure left in front of their nose, and you got to know when to twitch it. Sometimes you twitch it, they'll eat it. Sometimes you twitch it, they'll depart. So it's a real art form. You can see it all laying out in front of you, but it's that situation where just because you can see it and just because it turns on it doesn't mean you're going to catch it. Yes. Also, you're going to enjoy. We mainly use for suspended fish. We use like scout mode or perspective mode on. So the fish move so fast a lot of the time that you can't follow them on forward mode. You can sort of follow them, but you don't really know which way they're going. And you find it much easier to intercept those fish on perspective mode because it's laid out in front of you, suspending jerkbait in front of them. You just got to line the stars up and hold on when they bite. So it'll be a learning curve, pretty steep for you.
That will definitely be a learning curve for me. That definitely will. That's interesting because it's like we use perspective. It's just not as efficient because we're looking for 3-pounders and 4-pounders, not 15 and 20 pounders. So they show up, but it's harder to track them.
That's right.
So that's a very interesting. So like forward's more like effective, where like a forward mode rather than a perspective mode or scout mode, like you're talking about. It's interesting how that'll definitely take a little bit of getting. Do you put the transducer on the shaft of the trolling motor, or do you put it like on a?
It depends on preference. Like I like it on the shaft because I can then control it with my foot and I can fish with my hands. But a lot of guys will have it on a pole so that if they spot lock, then they can actually use the pole to target. So it's sort of half and half, and it depends on your preference as to what goes on.
And a lot of those fish are in deeper water too, so you don't have bottom structure coming into it, so it's very clear. You can see bait balls, you can see individual fish swimming and targeting.
The deeper the water, the better. You might be fishing 100 foot of water for a fish which is 5 foot down. So
that's cool.
As soon as you take all of the bottom clutter out of the equation, it gets a little bit easier to see them. Yeah, working around weed beds and stuff, it's a nightmare to see your lure. And the whole key, of course, is seeing your Rapala when it's coming towards them. Your tour incorporates 3 lakes. We're going to go to a lake called Lake Kinchit, which is a real small one. Very, very social fishing on that one. We're going to a lake called Lake Timbra, which is a little bit higher, deeper, lots of timber, lots of water lilies around the edge, and a lot of fish which feed on bony brim, which is our forage fish, which is like one of your like gizzard shads. Like anywhere from that big to this big.
And they're angry.
And they are very mean in that lake.
Yep.
And then the last one that we go to, we run 2 events on in a very social environment, is a lake called Peter Faust Dam. It might be 5 miles round basin. like it's quite a big basin. It can get quite choppy in the wind, but a lot of old sunken timber in that one. You can fish flats in that one. You can fish weed edges. You can fish suspended fish. You can fish timber. I'm really looking forward to the video of you hooking your first barra in the timber and it going around 5 trees, and then you trying to work out what to do, because you can't bully them back to you. So this is the technique. When a barra runs through the timber, you nearly free spool the fish, and when you free spool the fish, it sort of slows right down and it stops a bit. And then you've got to get your boat, you've got to follow it around all of those different trees. And when you think you've got a clear line of sight, then you
set the hook again.
Then you're back into it again. And yeah, it's a little different from bullying a largemouth over a dock line, you know.
And in the timber, it's lock drags.
Yeah, see, now I lock my drag down, but that is definitely going to be an interest. Oh my. I can't even imagine. You guys don't even understand how excited I am, because that is like, to me, I'm like over here thinking, I'm like, what the heck is going to happen? I mean, obviously getting to do something unique and different and being able to sort of challenge yourself as an angler, not only obviously from something that I know, and then going into this is like, that's like a dream come true. Just to, obviously, Gussie talks it up big. Obviously, Carl knows plenty about it, but I'm like, you can't even fathom when you're talking 15, 20-pound fish, 25-pound fish, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I can't even fathom what you're talking, because they act a lot like a bass, and they eat a lot of like bass type stuff, but it's like, yeah. So if you have one rod to use for your barramundi fishing, what size, action, like what are you looking for? Like if you had one rod, like obviously like a 7.0 medium heavy is probably the best overall rod for like a bass rod, or 7.3 medium heavy. So what would it be for like barramundi fishing?
Yeah, well, I like throwing like a 7-foot rod, but you're probably looking at more at a heavy rod. I'm fishing Suffolk 40-pound 832 over it, which breaks a lot higher than that. And like Steve said before, you're running 60, 80, 100-pound leaders on it, sort of thing. But you want to have that stopping power in open water when you target them alive, if it's in the middle of the basin, because you're using smaller lures with smaller hooks. A lot of the time you can go a little bit lighter rod. You still want that hard drag to set the hook, but you might back it back a little bit more. Whereas in the timber, a little bit heavier, you just can't give them an inch.
And let me say, I have one comment about lock drags. There is no reel on the planet where you can lock a drag with and you don't lose line.
You can't pull the drag off with your hand. You try, you hook one of these fish, and it's like going out pretty quickly, and you're going, how the hell is this happening?
Yeah. So anyway, I think we've done enough hype. I think you're gonna your content man's coming as well. So your fans will be able to see some of your experiences. And all I can say is we're looking forward to the big round eyes when you hook your first one. We loved it when Gussie's first one. He loved it. We had Brian Gustafson over from Canada, who runs those big retail stores in Canada before. We took him on the lake after he got off the plane, and within 30 minutes he had his first metering, and he was gibbering and dribbling everywhere. It was great. So we're looking forward to getting you across with the experience. And I have one other question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How did you let those Australians that wear flip-flops to an opening ceremony beat the USA in a bass fishing tournament when we don't have large?
Listen,
what happened
I'm still trying to figure that one out.
They are very chirpy about that in Australia.
I was very surprised, to be honest with you. I sat there and I said, "Wow, how'd you guys catch them?" Because I'm like, of course, like anything else, like I love fishing, and I'm intrigued after the tournament. Like, how'd you guys catch them? Like, we caught them swim jigging. We did this, we did that. I'm like, no way. Like, I just thought it was so cool. But they did. They gave us they spanked us. I said, wow, and they worked really well as a team. I was very impressed. I was like, hats off. Like, but it was such a great event, but definitely left that event. I'm like, we're going to have to step it up a little bit.
Well, there's a couple of them fishing the Barra Tour, so we can have a go at spanking them like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that I get that opportunity. I'm leaning heavily on you, but we're going to definitely have to give them a go on that one.
Did Tommy Wood tell you that the secret to his barramundi fishing powers? And Tom, you obviously met Tommy with the long hair.
Oh, yeah.
He's our current barramundi team angler of the year winner. So even though Tommy looks gentle, nice and gentle, he is an absolute gun on the barramundi, and he will be very happy to get. We'll coach you up to the point where you can give him some chirp back, mate. We hope so.
Yeah, you're gonna have to help me out, because he wouldn't tell me nothing. He was sitting over there tight-lipped when I was up there in Italy. He wouldn't say anything. He was just talking about. He said, just bring your 7-foot light spinning rods, your small like one size, one hooks. He said he was just telling me he sounded like we were bluegill fishing. I didn't, or a little like catching bait, but I was like, nah. He was trying to set me up. I could tell he was definitely trying to play me on that one.
Well, I can guarantee during the Barra Tour, you will enjoy it. You'll be stitched up lots. That's how we roll as Aussies. You've met them now. You know that we're all the same. We're all as bad as each other. So, mate, we look forward to meeting you in a week's time and getting you onto some big silver slabs.
Can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than pumped, and I can't wait to get down there. And man, it's gonna be a blast. I know if it's half as cool as you guys describe it, then I'm gonna be ecstatic. It's gonna be a great time.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks to Rapala for getting you across there. Thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for making it across the time difference, and travel safe.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys soon.
Catch you, mate.